Hello, Incredible Moms. This is Crystal Evaristo with the Incredible Moms podcast, where we discuss getting pregnant, being pregnant, having babies, being a mom, and so much more. We hope you enjoy the show.
So yeah, 3:07. I remember waking up, looking at the clock. It was 3:07. And I remember peeking into the room and making my way to the kitchen and pumping. And I made a bottle and I left it on the counter because I was like, he'll probably wake up within the hour. And I remember getting back in the bed and like something was like it's, I don't know, my mommy intuition or something. Something was like, go check on your baby. And so as I go in, I hear this little like, like a sound like a rat or a mouse or like an animal or something. And so as I get close to the crib, they're both sleeping in the same crib. That noise, I was like, what is it? And I couldn't really see them because the nightlight was the only thing on. And so I just turn on the bedroom light in the nursery. And as I get closer, I hear the and I could see that he was struggling to breathe. And so I lift up his shirt, and I've still got the video in my phone. I lift up his shirt, and it's like his stomach and his chest is like completely caving in. I can see his rib cages.
While he's breathing.
Yeah, I'm like, what is going on? I don't know what to do. This is my little 4-month-old baby. I don't know what to do. And I take a video of it to email into the doctor's line. I already called the doctor's line and they don't know what's going on because they can't see. And so the doctor's like, can you text me a video to my personal number? And so I text a video. And in between her responding back, I was already dressing everybody in the house. I remember screaming for my husband who was like, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. So in between like me originally finding him at around 3:30ish and the 5:00, my husband was already getting up, getting ready to go to work. He had to be at work at like 5:30. So he headed out. He's like, just let me know what's going on. And so I remember the doctor calling me back after she got the video and she said 2 words, hospital now. Ugh. And so I called my husband and I'm like, we got to go to the hospital. We got to go to the hospital right now. And by this point, he's like obviously struggling. He's and I'm like, what should we do? We had a neighbor who lived close to us. His name was Matt. He worked on he was an EMS EMT, the driver for the ambulance. He was ex-military, and so I'm like, Matt, can you come over or whatever, And he's like, yeah, you guys get to the hospital. And so my husband's coming back. We put all 3 kids in the car. We rushed to my godnana's house, who's en route, dropped off the girls at like 5 a.m. And we get to Wake Med and we're standing in line at Wake Med because there's a line. Why at 5 a.m., and we're in the emergency room and we went to the other emergency room because at the time we didn't even know there was a children's emergency room, because we had never been to the emergency room before with a baby. And by this time his struggle is louder. He's and then the lady that's sitting at the front desk, I remember there's 2 people in front of me, a lady and a little boy. And then there was a man in front who was coughing or something. This was October 27th. I think it was like the height of flu season because the hospital was packed. There was a lot of people in there. And I remember the lady saying, is that a baby? And I said, yes, he can't breathe. I don't know what's going on. And this lady, she's like an older lady. She like reached over, opened up her drawer and hit something like a button. And people started coming out everywhere. She answers the phone. She's like, I got a baby up here. Da, 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 da. And they snatch my 4-month-old son out of my arms and they like take off running through all these corridors. And I'm trying to keep up with them, run with them. And then they get him into a room and of course his airway is not open. And I remember them like trying to keep me out, but I was like, yo,
no.
This is my baby. I will kill you and everybody involved, and by this time, the doctor's like putting his fingers in his throat and listening to his heart rate, listen to his heartbeat. And he's got I can't even say the word. I'm not even going to try.
Stethoscope.
Yeah, he's listening to his heart, and he's like, I don't know what to do. And he tells the nurse to go grab something, and they give him an injection in his thigh. And he says, it's got to be an allergic reaction to something. And I said, he's only on breast milk. Like, what can he have an allergic reaction to? It's only breast milk. And so that turned into about a 4 to 5 day journey of what in the world is wrong with our son, who went from in the womb, he'll probably be Down syndrome, and then being born small, full term, but still small. And then, he was still small as a baby,
Mm-hmm.
And they tried to convince me that my oldest daughter had given him a grape or a raisin or, a Skittle, like some kind of food that had gotten lodged in his throat.
Did they find something in there?
No, they didn't. They tried to convince me that it had dislodged during, either his transport to the hospital or when they said they did a sweep on his throat and that somehow it had dislodged, but that was initially why he couldn't breathe. And like my mommy gut was still like, no, I'm not accepting this. So I remember it being a Saturday. They were going to discharge us. And I was like, no, we're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere until you tell me why my baby was not breathing. Because when we get home, if it happens again, I can't have any more kids like everybody else. You know what I mean? Like, it's not as easy for me to have these kids that people have just so freely, without even a conscious thought. And you're not going to take my only boy, you know what I mean? And my last baby that I gave birth to, and you're not going to put him at risk for anything else to happen if you can't tell me. And I just knew that my oldest daughter did not give him any food because she knew what breastfeeding was. And she knew that the baby's got mommy's milk, And plus, I had already looked in his mouth when I had him at home. So I knew nothing was in his throat and it just didn't make sense to me. So I was kind of like, one badass mama. Call security, call whoever you want. We're not leaving. And I remember, when they told me that we were going to be discharged and that we need to leave the room, the people came in, they were changing the trash out. They were wiping down the bed and everything. I was like, we're not going anywhere. I don't know why you're doing this. We're not going anywhere. They called like the head doctor. He came in and talked to us and he was kind of upset with me because, my defiantness of not wanting to leave. And I remember thinking something in my brain was like, just call your insurance company. And I called the insurance company, I think at the time, I can't remember who he had at the time. My husband's changed jobs since then. And I called and I told them and they said, well, what is the doctor saying? And I said, well, they're saying, it's just food and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well, there's anything you can do. Can you make them do anything? And the lady on the other side of the phone, I guess she just heard me, she just had a heart. And she said, well, have they done an endoscopy? And I'm like, well, what is that? And she's like, well, it's a little procedure that they can do to see if his airway is clear. And it usually involves like a little camera, they put it down his throat or his nose or whatever, just get down there and see. And I said, no, they haven't done anything like that. And she said, request it and I'll go ahead and approve it on this end. And I'm like, okay, somebody finally, wants to kind of hear, I told her what they had done so far. And the only thing they really did was like, they monitored him. Now, don't get me wrong. The nurses were great. The doctors were great. The staff was great. They just had it in their brain that it was food in his throat and that nothing was wrong with him. He had never given us another episode, right? And so I requested I think it's called an endoscopy. Isn't that what the camera does?
Yeah, endoscopy. But
endoscopy?
Yeah.
I'm saying it wrong?
That's
so I requested that and, kind of like they unwillfully were like, all right, we'll do it tomorrow. Well, that morning was Sunday. And I remember my cousin Justine texting me and asking me, how's the baby doing? And I said, well, he's fine, and in the minute I sent, it's fine, well, he's fine, all these alarms start going off again in the room.
So he
stopped breathing, stopped breathing again. And he's like, almost like it looked like a seizure or something, like his chest. It was weird. There's a word for it.
Retracting.
Mm-hmm. He was retracting so very heavily. You could see his rib cage just almost exposed, right?
Yeah.
And so they take him and they're doing all this stuff. And there's so many people. It feels like there's so many people in the room. And they got him calm to where he's breathing again. And they gave him oxygen. And after about, I would say 20 minutes of a breathing treatment, they had put, it starts with a P. It's like it's not progesterone. That's the fertility. Anyway, there's a steroid. There's a steroid that they put inside.
Prednisone.
Mm-hmm. Yes. They put the prednisone inside of the breathing treatment, the one that attaches to the wall or something.
Yeah.
And they gave him that and he calmed down. But, my thing was, I can't take this little baby home. I don't have all of the medical stuff that you guys have. I'm scared. Tell me what is wrong with my baby. And so they call in an ENT specialist, and he was supposed to come at a certain time. And I can't remember what time it was, but they were having like this powwow meeting at the end of the hallway. And I remember because as I'm sitting in the room, there's no doctors or nurses. I think it was like the change of the shift. I think they were meeting at the end of the hallway, and all the little alarms start again. And so I run to the nurse's station and nobody's there. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I run down to the end of the hallway and they're having a meeting. I just bang on the window just so they would recognize me. And then I take back off down the room to my son, because I knew if they recognized me, somebody was going to follow me back down to the room. Mm-hmm. So I get back down to the room and he's still in the bed and I'm rubbing on his chest. And by then a male nurse comes in and he says to me, hold his head, just hold his head. And he has this black box and he's pulling all this stuff out. And then the ENT comes in right behind and they pull out the stuff for the endoscopy. Is that what it's called? Endoscopy. Yeah.
So they hadn't done the endoscopy at this point yet.
But the ENT was already in the room getting the wrap up or whatever, from the nurses or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so they put they're taking out the black box with all this stuff. I remember them putting like the oxygen stuff like near him, but it wasn't on his face. And the ENT's looking all in his mouth and in his nose, and he's got lights everywhere. And I'm holding his head, which is like the worst thing you can ask a mom to do, because I'm shaking and I'm crying. And I'm like, God, please, what is going on? It's my baby, Yeah. And they put the black camera or whatever it is, down. I want to say it went down his nose. And if you have ever held on to, I guess, a patient in general, it's hard to hold somebody down that does not want to be held down, even a 4-month-old baby.
They're strong.
Yes, he was strong. He was raising up off that bed, and I'm trying to hold his head and his neck straight. And then the doctor, he keeps saying, I need quiet. And I'm like, answer me. Tell me what's wrong with my baby first before, everything's quiet. So I try to calm down. I'm trying to be quiet. My husband, aunt, she's in the room because she saw me in the hallway. She was coming to visit. She's at the door. I see her crying. I'm crying. And I'm holding his head, and they put the camera down, and I remember him bringing it back up, and it had like blood and like mucus or something on it. Mm-hmm. And he says to me, he's got a hole in his throat. He's got a hole in his throat. There's a hole in his throat. And I'm like, how is there a hole in my baby's throat, which leads me back as to why he never grew in the wound, why he never really swallowed his amniotic fluid, why he never goo goo gaga, he never babbled or anything. And so what we end up finding out after numerous tests and little procedures was that he had a word. There's an actual name for it. I can never pronounce it. I'll never be able to pronounce it. Basically, there's a flap on top of your airway, your throat, that stops food from coming down in your, I guess, into your lungs, right? So, there's two tubes. One is your esophagus and one is your, give me the other word, the breathing one. There's two of them. One goes into your stomach for your food and then one goes into your lungs. But there's one airway going down. But anyway, the flap stops the food from going into your lungs.
Right.
Well, his flap was enlarged and had sunken down into, it's supposed to open up as you breathe, right? Well, his had sunken down and kind of created a pocket. That was one issue, that the flap, that muscle tissue was enlarged. And then right up under it, there was a hole, literally a hole in his esophagus. And so they say to me, well, the only way to fix this is obviously surgery, but we cannot promise you that the scar tissue from the surgery won't cause further, issues. Mm-hmm. One of the issues was they were afraid that he would be mute because of the damage to his voice box in the back. And the chance was like 30-something%. And we were like, is there anything else we can do? And they said, well, the only thing else you can do is kind of learn to live with this, monitor it, and treat it with steroids. And so for the first 5 years of his life, I cannot tell you how many times we went back and forth to the hospital, to the point that we planned our family vacations around not staying closest to the attraction, but staying closest to the best hospital. Wow. Because these breathing episodes would happen in the middle of the night. They would happen when he was playing. They would just come out of nowhere. I mean, I watched that boy like he was a piece of gold, and eventually I kind of picked up on when it would happen, when it wouldn't happen. Every time he got sick, when he caught a cold, anytime mucus would build up, it happened. And when it would happen, the older he got, the harder it was to control it because he fought. When he was in pain, I mean, he would fight. He would stiffen up. He would urinate on himself.
Especially if he can't breathe.
Yeah, he couldn't breathe. Yeah. Terrified. And it was to the point where, some of the episodes were light and a rescue inhaler would help. Some of them, the nebulizer, is that what it is? The breathing machine. Those would help. And then some of them were hospitals. And I would know within seconds of that first gasp for air. I mean, I just kind of got so used to it, I would know within first seconds, okay, this is a hospital one. We got to go. Mm-hmm. It was to the point where we slept with no radios, no TVs, nothing on, so we could hear him in the middle of the night. And at one point I actually think that my family thought I was crazy until other people started seeing it. Like the first time my mom was spending the night at our house and it happened, she freaked out,
Yeah.
And I think she saw what we endured as parents. I remember being on an Easter family vacation and it happened on vacation. And we were in Virginia driving around trying to, we knew where the hospital was, but, we had to go to a hospital. And, by this time I knew exactly the dosage of medication we needed going in. And, well,
you're like telling the doctors.
Yeah,
okay,
I'm telling the doctors what to do. Okay, what you need to do is get the oxygen out. He needs a breathing treatment, and you got to put the progesterone. Is that the name? Prednisone.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get the prednisone in it. We're gonna need so many milliliters of that. I need you to write me a prescription to go home, and then we're gonna need steroid injection thereafter, and I need a new inhaler. I knew exactly what to say every single time. Well, this little boy of mine, who is all boy, by the way, jumping off of couches, backflips, kicks and dips and everything. May of last year, he was 4 at the time, 4.5 at the time. It was, was it May? I don't know if it was May. When's Memorial Day? It was Memorial Day. I know it was Memorial Day because I was cooking food for a Memorial Day cookout. And my oldest daughter comes to me and she says, Mommy, Dil can't breathe. And immediately I take off running. And as I go in the room, I'm like, it's not his normal. I'm like, what is going on? And I just see tears coming down his throat. I mean, coming down his face. Tears are going down his face. And I pull his shirt up. I don't see his chest, going up and down. I'm like, what in the hell is going on? And I look around, there's money all over the floor. And I look at my daughter and I said, did he have a money in his mouth? And she says, a quarter.
Oh my God.
And I said, I flip him over and I'm hitting him on the back. Nothing. I do try the Heimlich. Nothing. I flip him back over. I have him over on my knee. I'm hitting him as hard as I can to the point where I had him upside down. And I was just shaking him. We only stayed minutes from the hospital, probably 3 minutes from the hospital. We're very close to the hospital. And I remember leaving. I had no bra on. I was cooking food. I had no guests or nothing over. I had no cell phone. I had no wallet. I had no insurance information. I literally picked my son up, grabbed my keys, left my other children in the house, the food on the stove and everything. And I left. And, I told my husband, I was like, we're gone. Get in the car. I didn't even put him in a car seat. I drove with him in my lap to the hospital. I pulled up, did not put the car in park, left. The car rolled into the bushes.
Oh my God.
I get inside the hospital and I'm like, he can't breathe. I think he has a coin in his throat. And so the lady who's behind the desk says, hand him here. And she tries to do the Heimlich as well. Nothing. By then, other people are coming out. They get him to the back. And I think like this big, huge, burly man, he had to be a nurse or something, but he was trying his very best to do a very soft, but quick and forceful Heimlich without, endangering his ribs or anything. And my son's just like screaming because of the pain. Nothing. And they said, you know what? He's breathing, but we need to get some oxygen in his airway. So they put oxygen up his nose and we immediately go for x-rays and the quarter is just sideways in his throat.
Oh my God.
Not coming out at all. And so this is at Johnston Health here off of 42. And they say, we're not fit to handle this. We need to send you. We're going to call a Metabus and we're going to send you to Wake Med. Well, my son's elated because now he gets to ride in a ambulance, right? Mm-hmm. And so we ride the ambulance to Wake Med and an ENT comes in and tells me that the only way they're going to get it is by performing I think it was called an endoscopy again.
Yeah.
Another endoscopy, but a surgery to go in there and get the coin out. Uh-huh. And I said, well, I appreciate, your suggestions and everything, but he has a pre-existing condition and nobody's performing the surgery except for his doctor from Duke. I'm just not going to allow it because this doctor knows all of his pre-existing information and everything. And so they were so gracious enough to allow his ENT to come in and perform the surgery to remove the quarter.
Oh, wow.
And they did his tonsils, adenoids, and the quarter, tonsils, adenoids, and his hole all at the same time because the doctor was like, look, if we already have him up under anesthesia, let's do it. He's going to be in a lot of pain afterwards, but we'll be done with everything.
Yeah.
We'll never have these episodes again.
And he's more developed, so I'm sure the risk was a lot less. Right?
So the muscle on the top that was enlarged when he was a baby, as he grew, that flap on the top had become a non-issue because he grew into it. Mm-hmm. At the time when we were told when he was 4 months, it was the size of a 6-year-old. So when he had that surgery at 4.5 months, it was almost, size of a 6-year-old, anyways. Mm-hmm. And so that they didn't have to bother. They did have to fix the hole. They did get the coin out. Well, no. They dropped the coin in the surgery. So the coin went on down and he did end up passing it through after a few days. And they gave him a lot of laxatives to kind of help him out. And so, and during those days, he killed me with the popsicle. The doctor say I can have as many popsicles as I want. And anything that he didn't want to eat, he got away with. The doctor say I only eat soft things. And he just wanted put in applesauce. So he ate put in applesauce for like a month. But they fixed him all up. And he is the happiest little boy now. They just, both of the twins just started kindergarten, and Grace is in the 2nd grade. But they are the happiest children. And now that I look back through our journey, if I wanted to have kids when I wanted to, I don't see that our lives would be where they are. Because instead of paying for daycare and diapers and extra medical insurance for a child and all that, I was buying my first house, and I was paying off all of my, I didn't have any, school loans and debt and stuff like that. So even though during the time I didn't necessarily agree with our journey, it all happened during the right time for us, and for our family. I can't imagine that I would have ever had, if we would have had our son first, that we would have had any more children, because his health issues probably would have scared me to the point where I was like, no, we're not having any more.
Right.
But that is the story of our full fertility journey to where we are. We did end up donating our embryos to other families. And we did get email notifications that we have 2 children out there somewhere. So wow. I don't consider them mine at all. But I am intrigued to kind of like, a part of me wants to know, because my son has red hair. And I'm like, I wonder did the other kids have, because my daughter's hair is jet black.
Yeah.
The other twin, Olivia, her hair is jet black. And then my oldest daughter, she's got like this honey brown kind of color, kind of like mine. Mm-hmm. I'm like, where did this red hair come from? Did y'all give me the right sperm? But yeah, so we had a long but very promising journey. And so the reason why, I tell our story is that, I find so many women that doubt themselves, that doubt their womanhood and their places in life, all over infertility, And I think I had kind of got to the point where I was so secure in my faith and so secure in who I was, that if it would have never happened, I wouldn't have questioned God's plan, because I knew that if he wouldn't have given us kids, that he had the ability to do it, and that if he didn't give us kids, it was just not a part of what his journey, his will for our lives were, But I got pretty secure with it. But I can't sit here and say I didn't battle, and that I didn't replace a lot of pillows, because I cried my pillows out. I cried them out. And it was very hard celebrating the people around me. And so I am one of the people where I don't ask newlywed couples when they're having babies. I don't ask couples that have been together for years why they don't have children. I don't ask an expecting mom if she wants a boy or a girl, because I know what it feels like to have a child hooked up to all these machines. And you don't care if it's a boy or girl. You don't care if they have Down syndrome or autism. I know what it feels like to have your child in your hands, and he's urinated on himself and he's urinated on you. And all you want is for your baby to be able to breathe. That's all you want. I know what that feels like. And so I'm very mindful of what I say, to expecting moms and other moms. But, we have a complete family now. And every once in a while, my ovaries tingle. And I say, what would it be like to have one more? And then I walk in the door and I see all the laundry. And the Cheeto stains on my furniture, and and the Power Wheels, and the, Barbie dolls and American dolls. And I want an iPod. When can I get a cell phone? I'm like, yeah, calm down, ovaries. We don't want any more.
It's like that biological clock is ticking as it gets closer to the.
But, if our story can encourage anyone who's experienced any of this, whether it be infertility or, the loss of a pregnancy or, multiples, and I will say that, the journey of our story is so eerie that I lost one of our twins on Mother's Day weekend 2012. And then I had twins on Mother's Day weekend 2015. It's just like, and it wasn't planned. It's not like I wanted to have, that's just when my due date so happened. Right. I mean, now, don't get me wrong. I wanted to get rid of those twins because they were bursting my belly, but we didn't plan to have twins that time because, if it weren't for Hurricane Sandy coming through, we probably would have waited till our oldest daughter was probably 4 or 5. She was only 2 at the time. It's hard having a 2-year-old and 2 babies.
I bet.
Yeah. But if our journey, if our story can, help anybody else along the way, that's the reason why I tell it because, as a woman who experienced fertility, I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't have anybody to lean on in those moments. All I had was all of my cousins and my friends around me giving birth. And all I had was all these people who didn't know what we went through. They didn't know the tears that I cried. And it seems like every time we went to church or, a family event, somebody was saying, why y'all ain't got no kids yet? Well, we're kind of just over here spending our life savings trying to have them, but thank you for your rudeness. You know what I mean?
Right. People are
yeah. Or, the times I remember going to my mother-in-law's hair salon at one time, and there was a lady there who was getting her hair done, and she says to me, where's the baby at? And it was just right after I had lost Mackenzie. Mm-hmm. And just like, like
people are so ignorant. I don't know if that's the word, but it's, they don't think.
I don't know if it's ignorance or it's just that we have just, in society, we've just learned to expect couples to just have babies right off the bat. That's not always the case. Right. You don't know what they're struggling with. And then some people decide to put child rearing aside or, parenthood aside so that they can advance in their careers, so infertility or problems are not always the issue. But like I said, I just try myself to be a little bit more mindful of what I say because words hurt, even though it's not intentful. But right. I cannot tell you the amount of people, almost every person in my family probably said to us, when are y'all having kids or why are y'all waiting so long? And, there were times when people would say stuff about us having kids and I was just recovering from a miscarriage nobody knew about.
Right.
Or people would say, well, why aren't you decorating your nursery? You don't know what it feels like to come home to that nursery with no baby. And I know what it feels like. So no.
Yeah.
I'm not going to decorate. I'm not going to buy clothes. I'm not going to buy car seats. I'm not going to do any of that until I know this pregnancy is viable,
Yeah.
So it's a different journey for everybody, I believe.
Yeah. And I've had, I do high risk labor and delivery. So I've seen that, a lot of stuff that you've gone through too. And it's horrible.
And
I like that you say that you are very careful about what you say to anyone because I one of the things I want to ask each person coming and telling me their story is what would you give a labor and delivery nurse advice about if you had to do it over again or whatever.
Well, let's see. I mean, I was at Wake Med and I have to say their labor and delivery team was amazing. I don't have any complaints. And I can't really think of anything in my head as far as labor and delivery. What I will say as far as, me trying to advocate for my son, I just wish someone would have believed me.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it wasn't a grape. I knew it wasn't a Skittle. I knew it wasn't a raisin in his throat. I knew, I just, something told me something was wrong with my baby. In
Right.
fact, his doctor ended up telling us that if I would have never strongly advocated for him, I would have taken him home. He would have been released and he would have succumbed in his sleep to his condition, and it would have been written off as childhood SIDS. He said if
Right.
he would have just died in his sleep and they would have told you it was SIDS, and if it were not for me advocating so strongly that they stick a darn camera down his throat and just show me that there's nothing there, um, that's the only problem that I would say that I had. But as far as like labor and delivery, I had a very fun team with me. They gave me all the little ice chips in the world. I think one of them snuck me my favorite gum, some juicy fruit. But I had a fabulous labor and delivery team. But I will say, I do think the whole, when you have a miscarriage, a stillbirth, or if you've had a DNC performed, leaving the hospital, with other women at the same time, that they're going home with a baby and you don't get to go home with a baby. I wish that was something that they changed.
Yeah.
Don't wheel me out with 3 other women holding 3 other babies that I can hear crying and I can see the smiles on. I mean, like, I remember their families waiting
Yeah.
in the lobby. Nobody was waiting for me. My husband went and got the car. Nobody had congratulation balloons and flowers.
Right.
And then, like, here I am trying to put on this smile because I don't want to take away from their moment, And you don't want to be the sad person, you don't want to be the dim light in the room. So you smile and you nod at them, but you're leaving without a baby. And there's got to be something they can do to change that,
Yeah.
Just let me go at a different time, or just don't wheel me out with other moms that, have just delivered. I don't
Right.
know if there's a way they could, but you hear the babies crying through the walls. And when
Right.
you don't have a baby in your room with you, it
Right.
hurts. My God, it hurts. You live with the regret and you question yourself. You question, what did I do wrong? What did I eat wrong? Did I hold my pee too long? Did I take too hot of a shower? What did I do? Because you already feel like this woman that is broken
Right.
and that you're not enough, you know.
Right.
I don't tell the story of, how many babies we lost, because it's just too heavy. It's too heavy and it
Yeah.
sticks with me for days at a time, and it causes me to go into these bouts of, depression 3 or 4 days at a time. I think the only person I've actually had an earnest conversation with about it is my therapist. I don't even discuss it with my husband
Right.
because it hurts, So if I had any advice to give to labor and delivery, it wouldn't be as far as their treatment towards people, but be mindful that the women that have lost babies, we hear the other babies in the other room. We hear the other births going on, and we're released at the same time, and there's diapers in the drawers, and
Yeah.
all the stuff we don't need because we don't have a baby is there. I believe when I had one of our miscarriages, when I was in my recovery, a lactation consultant like accidentally, came in, and I don't know if she was just doing her rounds. I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
But she came in and she was like, "Well, I'm the lactation consultant." I'm looking at her like, "Ain't no baby in here, lady,"
Yeah.
But like those are things that I think labor and delivery teams could be a little bit more sensitive about, because you don't know how many times that woman has lost that baby,
Right.
and when there's such a hard journey, when the journey is fertility, when the journey is 7 years into your marriage, when the journey is thousands and thousands of dollars spent, it doesn't matter if you miscarry at 2 weeks, 20 weeks, or at stillbirth at 40 weeks. It hurts so bad. It hurts so bad. And I don't know what they could do. I guess my suggestion would just be to just look into the sensitivity of, of it,
Be mindful of that.
Be mindful of it, because you don't know how many times that woman has been through it. And there was a point, not where I gave up, but like I said before, there was a point where I was okay, because I got very content with all of our struggling that we had been through. I had beat myself up so much about it. And I'm sure my husband had, his own insecurities that he suffered with as well. It nearly drove us apart. I remember the day, like I said, I had a conversation with my mom, and I was willing to release my husband from our marriage because he wanted a baby so bad, and I couldn't give it to him. If he wanted a necklace or a diamond ring, or if he wanted a car or a motorcycle, anything else, I was able to give to him. But what he wanted most, I was not able to give to him. And I remember the day, I remember like being at work that week and just being like, well, if I can't give it to him, if another woman can, I would rather him be, with another woman.
Right. Because you love him that much. You want to make him that happy.
That much that I wanted to make him happy. But just that I had got to that point mentally. Now that I look back on it, he's such a good man. I can't ever imagine, wanting to get rid of him. But, that's where I was,
Right.
and I just gotten to the point in life where I didn't think we would ever have kids. And then it's like, you consider yourself a failure almost.
Right.
And you're like,
what's wrong with me? Why can't I do what my body's supposed to be doing?
I remember you saying the word body. I remember standing in the shower crying. Shower's my kind of place of serenity. It always catches all my tears. But I remember staying in the shower and kind of just holding, my, at the time, empty uterus, and like just being angry and saying, why won't you do what I'm telling you to do? And I remember saying, why won't you obey me? Obey me. Like I'm speaking to my uterus and I'm like, obey me, get pregnant. What is wrong with you? Like I'm literally angry with my own body, for not being able to get pregnant. And then you hear all of these people, dear God, women, if you hear nothing else, hear me when I say, leave women that are affected by fertility alone. It doesn't matter. I had people telling me everything. Oh, you just need to put cinnamon on your tongue. Oh, you just need to eat more blueberries. Oh, you need to do this. I have done everything physically possible. I did everything medically possible, and we still couldn't get pregnant, and to have people say the stupidest things. I had somebody tell me, just get a dog, like I could never compare the love that I have with my children. Just get a dog. Like, why would you say that? People say the most insensitive stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And so I'm very mindful of what I say. It is nobody's business, first of all, what a man and a woman do in their bedroom and what a woman decides to do with her body. It's nobody's business.
Right.
But secondly, you can't expect every couple that's married, whether it be 1 month, 1 year, 5 years, or 15 years, to just be ready to have children, because you don't know what it is. So we have to be very mindful. And that is my public outcry, not to just medical staff, but to all of us in general. Be mindful, because you don't know what people are going through. I watched my brother have a baby. I watched my sister have a baby. I watched everybody around me. I watched a family friend of ours get pregnant and give her son up for adoption because she wasn't ready, and on the inside I was saying to myself, just give them to me, like just give them to me. It is a journey I don't wish on anybody. My kids are perfect in my eyes, and I think a lot of the journey is probably why they get whatever they want.
You're like, you know what? Might as well.
Yeah, that's probably why they get whatever they want. But
it makes you feel like such a strong woman and an amazing mom, and appreciate like every fight and dirty diaper and mess in your house.
It makes you appreciate the walk a little bit. And I get the same frustrations all parents get.
Right.
You cleaned up that morning and you walk in and you've only been at Walmart 20 minutes and your husband let him tear up the entire house. I get all of those frustrations. But, when I look at my son running and playing after being told to expect him to come out with Down syndrome, and then after seeing him hooked up to all these machines, and then after holding him in my arms so many times while my husband drives 100 miles per hour to a hospital, it makes me grateful to see him running and playing. And, when I comb my daughter's hair, it makes me think of all the times, I was in the hospital and all I wanted was my mom to come and just comb my hair. I wanted my mom there with me. Mm-hmm. And, my infertility journey, it brought me and my mom so close together, which, it also was a part of me advancing in my womanhood, that brought us closer together. And so I will say to anyone out there who's, struggling with infertility, that know that you are enough with or without a baby. You are enough. And I've been through it. I mean, I had all the thoughts, the suicidal thoughts, I had the deep, dark depression, I had the, where's the money going to come from? I had all of those thoughts, and, but everybody, the way that we process it and the way that we handle it as unique individuals are all different. Like I said, I'm not one to want to dim the light of others. So, some of the girlfriends I had at the time, I didn't want to talk about my infertility while they were pregnant with their own babies. So I just kind of kept my mouth shut, It was a lot to deal with. It was.
So exhausting and mentally and physically.
It is. It was. It was exhausting of my bank account.
Yeah,
I'd like to call my kids Lexus, Mercedes, and Range Rover. That's what I should be driving.
Mom, why won't you buy us that $500 VR? Well, let's get on that topic.
Yeah, when they turn 16 and they ask for their first car, let's sit down and have a conversation about what happened to that money that was allocated for your car. Kind of got spent just to get you here.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, our journey was long. It wasn't as long as some people, I saw and I met people on the journey who had been, struggling for 10 plus years,
Yeah.
And like I said, we didn't have our daughter until we got pregnant at 6 years into it, and we had her at 7 years into it. But it was worthwhile once, I saw that jet black hair and those bright brown eyes. She was a whopper too. My God, that was a big baby. I'm so glad that Dr. Rush talked me into a cesarean because I wouldn't have survived vaginally birthing her out. She was huge.
We're part of the big babies club because I had huge babies.
How big were yours?
Well, my first was 7:15, but he was almost 3 weeks early.
Oh my God.
My second was 10:8. He was 5 days late.
Holy moly.
And then you'll see him out there.
I'm clinching.
My last one was 11:12.
My God.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I don't even want to speak about her 9 pounds anymore. Oof. My God.
No, that's a lot though. That's a big baby. Mine were just toddlers.
Yeah. My God. And I had a girlfriend, one of my high school classmates. She had twins as well, boy and girl. And both of hers were like 8 and 9 pounds. And I was like,
oh God.
Hamburger. She had some big babies. Both.
She had a C-section?
Yeah, she had a C-section. Yeah. Yeah, there's no way I could push after delivering a big baby. I don't think I could push out another baby. Yes. I think my doctor made the right choice with, going with the cesarean with Grace because she was just a big, huge baby.
And you're not like a big person. You're not built.
I'm not. I don't have a big frame at all.
Yeah.
I think I'm only like 140 now.
Yeah.
All the years after the kids, and this ain't from running. Because I don't do any of that. This is just my this is just my normal build. So I don't think 11. There's no way I could have done 11 pounds. Cut that joker out of me.
Yeah.
So I appreciate being able to talk about it, and hopefully it encourages someone along the way. If not to keep their mouth shut, I want people to know that and understand it, because I went through those very low moments of thinking I wasn't enough and that something was broken. I literally thought something was broken. I was like, God, why would you make me a broken woman? Why would you make me a broken human?
Mm-hmm.
And then, when we found out, after a lot of research, when we found out what it wasn't even me. And I spent all these years beating myself up. And the truth was all sperm don't swim. Some of them just sit there like, hey, where's the party? And they never move and go anywhere. So, I beat myself up for a long time, thinking that, I was less than a woman, or, I was broken or something. That's our journey.
I'm so happy you came, because this turned out way more than I thought it was going to be. So thank you so much.
I didn't talk too much.
No.
I'm a natural talker, by the way.
Yeah, same. I'll literally could talk for hours. So,
but hopefully you can. You can relay back to your colleagues in labor delivery, or maybe there's something one of the head people can do. And I kind of think hospitals could kind of handle women who experience that in a more sensitive nature.
We, at my hospital in particular, we actually have kind of like a bereavement set up for every patient that comes in with either baby was alive and then passed after birth, or coming in with already passed. And we keep them in rooms that are not near people who would be laboring.
Good.
And we mark their door with a butterfly so that
ahead.
Yeah.
Anyone that
walks
enters.
in,
Yeah.
And we never put them on the postpartum unit. We keep them on our floor the whole time.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more mindful than what you're talking about.
Well, this was probably also 9-10 years ago when I was going through this stuff. And I think as the world has become more accepting of different family units and what family units look like, that they're not all the same, and that there's so many things like podcasts and social media platforms where people can express what they've been through, that as a society, some individuals like your team at your hospital has become more enlightened and put it in certain measures so that they can be sensitive to the people that are going through it and the families that are going through it, because the spouses go through the same pain as well. And the grandmothers and the grandparents, they feel that hurt as well,
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's why they put you through, I don't know about the place you went to, but they put you through some very rigorous mental testing too, to make sure
IVF,
you're fit.
Yeah. During IVF, they put us through a lot of questions. Even when we donated our embryos, we went through a lot of psychological evaluations about how would we feel if we saw the kid that is ours in a store one day. How would we react? If you saw a child that looks just like your child, would you question that family, or would you walk right on by? And of course, my answer was I would walk right on by, because it's kind of none of my business how they're rearing the children that we gave up, or the embryos that we gave up. But they do ask a lot of mental questions. And we experienced that during IVF. And, we had to sign all this paperwork that what would happen with our embryos if my husband and I were to ever divorce, or if he were to die. If he were to die suddenly, the embryos were not solely mine. And so I didn't have a say-so if I could impregnate myself with our embryos without his wish. And so he had to write down his wishes. And I had to leave the room because they didn't want me to put any pressure on what his true wish was. If he were to unfortunately die before we were to use those embryos, what would he like done with them? Because you have to be, because an embryo is our baby together. It's not an egg. It's not sperm. It's our baby already together that is frozen. In the particular practice that we went to, that's how they looked at it. And so both spouses had a part in the say-so of what happened. So it's a lot more mental strain than what people think. And the financial weight of it is...
Not many people can afford more than one cycle.
Yeah, they can. And, I mean, I'm just so glad that, we made the amount of money that we made at the time, and that we had parents and grandparents that were able to help in any way. Maybe I don't need you buying me 10,000 outfits. Just kind of give me $100 for this medicine. It'll help,
Right.
So it's kind of
Christmas this year.
Yeah. We don't need Christmas. Can I have all the future Christmas money and birthday money now? Because I need this hormone therapy money. It's all different. And IVF was our route. That's what worked.
Right.
And so the judgment that we got from people, I didn't understand that. I didn't understand why people would say some of the things they said.
Do you think that's why, because we were talking before we started this, that a lot of African American women don't do IVF, or they don't have egg donors because of that stipulation?
I think it may be a little bit of just being ill-informed. Because before we started our IVF journey, I never knew that there was a problem in the African American community with embryos and eggs. There's men who can give sperm at the drop of a hat. There's enough sperm, but if there is a Black woman or a woman of color that wants to have a baby and she does not produce eggs, or if her eggs are not healthy enough, or if there's been a medical interference there to where she's not dropping eggs every month, there's not any available. And so I try to say to especially college age women, you're producing eggs every month. They're literally dropping out of you. Give them to other families who want them. I mean, I met so many families along our journey that had to fly to these other foreign countries to get eggs. And, they had to put Craigslist ads out because there was no eggs available. Like I said, maybe there's a lack of knowledge there. And I think a lot of people look at the cost of IVF and it scares them, but it's a car. Wouldn't you give a car for your kid?
Yeah.
I mean,
and some insurances cover one cycle, one IVF cycle a year.
At the time, my husband had a good employer, a really good employer, and they actually gifted us some of it, which was very, very nice of them. They gifted some of it to us. We had nice doctors who would write certain things down on pieces of papers, and doctors who would give us all the free samples we could get. But we still spent a lot of money. But I don't want people to think that because you don't have the money, there's no way it's not going to happen. I never thought that the lady who owed me the money was going to pay me back. But when I walked to the mailbox, it was in there. Yeah. She probably never thought she would be able to pay me back. But when her husband died, she had his life insurance money and she paid me back, So I think the timing was just right for our family.
Yeah.
But in the African American community, unfortunately, a lot of African American women don't know that there's a void or a need there.
Right.
And they also probably don't know that they can get paid a lot of money to do it. And so that's why I try to implore a lot of college age students. It doesn't hurt. You're asleep when they take them out. You feel about the same amount of intensity or cramping that you would feel in a normal cycle that you get every month anyway. The only discomfort that I experienced was the bloating. I had some bloating. Right. I couldn't really wear jeans. I kind of had to wear like sweatpants or something. for maybe 3 or 4 days. And that was just as my uterus just kind of filled up with those 29 eggs.
Yeah.
It was kind of like I was 3 months pregnant. If I looked in the mirror, I was like, whoa.
Some people are like that just with a natural period.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You blow and you go to the bathroom a lot, but there was no pain there. So I do implore of any women, I think the cutoff age is 35. Now be mindful, women. I'm telling you this, that you can get pregnant. So you can't have sex during this time.
Right.
When they put you on this hormone therapy, if you have sex, you will get pregnant, and you probably will have multiples because they put you on these hormones so that you can produce more eggs. So you kind of gotta stop having sex. It's like 30 to 45 days that it takes there to produce that amount of eggs. It's a full cycle.
Wow. Yeah.
It's a full cycle that you have to go through. They stop your cycle 1 month. They stop it early with medicine, and then they put you on a hormone regimen, and then they intensify it as you get towards the end. And you do a little bit of crying here and there, but you will help somebody's family by doing it. I wish that I would have known the first 6 years what I knew in the 1 year that we started IVF treatment.
Right.
Because our kids would be like 12 and 13 now. If we just would have went straight to IVF, we wasted all those years.
Yeah. Heartache. And
with a lot of pain. Yeah. We wasted all those years. But again, like I said, I don't regret any of that because our journey is our journey. And now that I look back on it, it all evened out to where we don't have a perfect life, but I'm very happy with the life that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why Black people tell people to pray about everything.
I'm not from the South, and
it's big here.
Yeah, no, I know.
Now, don't get me wrong. I love me some Jesus now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I love me some Jesus, but I kind of feel like if I pray about a F-250, and I want an F-250 all I want, that doesn't mean that I don't have to pay the current car payment on my Honda Accord. You know what I mean? You kind of got to do what you have to do credit wise. You got to save up money. Mm-hmm. You have to put yourself in the position to be able to afford the truck that you want. You can't just sit and pray about it. And so the same thing is with an infertility journey. You can't just pray about it. You kind of got to get up and do something. And that doesn't mean that you lack faith. It means that you found another avenue.
And you have to work hard a little harder than
everybody else. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This is awesome.
I appreciate it. And I look forward to listening to myself, I guess, and listening to all the other moms that, have their journeys and have their stories. So many people have crazy.
Yeah. Everything. That's what I love about it. Every story is like completely different from the last. Even at work, it's just.
There's no way I could do your job though. Because like I said, I'm I guess a little bit more sensitive than most people. I would be in there crying with the moms and I'd probably pass
used
out.
To it kind of after a while.
I'd probably pass out. Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to this incredible mom story today. I really hope you enjoyed it and that it may have helped you in some way. Make sure you rate and leave a comment so I can be sure to bring you the content that you really want. Please follow the Incredible Moms podcast on Instagram, where you'll also be able to find many updates and episodes. I can't tell you how much I appreciate any support. Stay tuned for another Incredible Mom next week.